What? I had to go to the bathroom. Hold on. Hold on. I forgot to turn off this thing. I'm paying attention to it. Anyway, I literally just came from the bathroom. And I know it's not Todd. I know it's you. Okay, I think, yes, Todd, Hammond, hi! First off, I don't have my hands on me right now. I just waved to nothing because my hands are tied. Thank you for following, Fragilities. Sorry for apparently letting you be alone with, the people in my chat for too long. I hope you're doing well if you're still here. Maybe you got scared off by God knows what. Honestly, just I'd also be scared, don't worry. It goes up. You can't just tell me to hydrate. I come into the wrong neighborhood. You're making like this like an exclusivity. Like, oh my god. No, you can't, because I put cooldowns on it, because I'm not dumb. A lot of water fell on my lap, and I feel like I just peed myself. It's gross. But it was not that much water. Anyway. I'm here to play Ooblets today. I lost my hands again. I don't pee. I just pour a cup of water down the toilet every so often. It's like bold of you to assume that I produce anything. I'm gonna get him a hat. There you go. Anyway, I'm getting him a hat. Let me change screens really fast, and we can go to Tide. I don't see you producing any content, huh? You wanna fight me? What do you produce? Yeah, that's Night. Yeah, it's literally what we've talked about. There's 2 nights now. Listen, if I thought I'd produce good content, I'd be producing more content, but I am opposed to that. But my manager makes me produce content. So here we are, dance battle time. Bow, 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 bow. I don't know what that means, but sure. No, I didn't. I don't know what you're talking about. There you go. Okay. To where we were, loading up the game. I have 2 of them. I played that a very long time ago, if you cannot tell. I mean, like, I can track some of my arm. Tracking is expensive. That's all I have to say to you. You see this face right here? This cost me, like, $50. Because I can't do it myself. You gotta pay money for stuff. And I'm poor. It did not grace my bank account very nicely. I also have the day I'll know the community made it is when Hammond becomes a Merc plushie for me to buy. Hi! I'm gonna be in your stream later. Don't worry, I didn't forget. I pay attention to a lot of things. Making them stonks. There you go. Now I have everything. Alright, we're up and we're going. Look at my team. If anyone wasn't here far enough, this is Todd. That's Clicky Claws. That's someone else, and that's Clomper. This guy right here is a Gleamy, which means he's rare. Well, kinda rare. It's hard to find. I don't know when I get Tut hats. Oh, I haven't even fixed my house yet. That's probably why I don't have that hat. Okay, so wait to pause it. Now we have a house! Whoops. I've literally been trying to get Tut a hat this whole time, but like, I've not made it very far until right now. It's one of the biggest steps I made. Oopsies. Okay, no, that's not my color bar thing on the bottom. You see that bottom thing? I thought that was like, something I put when I play Link, or like just have anything open in the background in general. But it wasn't that, so. Delicate tones of amateur construction work. Wow, and now we don't have anything to complain about. I do want to buy furniture to make it look cute. Look at him delivering my letter for me. Thanks for following, Whimsy. Alright, dance party over. Now it's time to get down to serious business. Peter will be flossing though. Okay. How do I? Is it? No, oh, Q. It's up there. But if I send them to battles, then they'll be having dance battles, so then they'll be doing the thing. This game is what I like to call a little bit of a hidden gem. Ooblets is not fully released, like not all the content's out, but they've been working on it very hard. And yes, it's like a farming sim where you have these little fellows that do dance battles, and if you beat them in dance battles, they'll poop out a seed, you can plant it, and then you'll get one of them. And it's great. And you can put little hats on them. I describe it as like Pokemon and Harvest. Well, I don't say Harvest Moon, because Harvest Moon has like more farming aspects to it. I think it's a calm game. Well, calm. Yeah, I'd say it's more like Slime Rancher. Exactly. Yeah, that's actually what reminds me the most of, because you still collect like the little, you collect these little collectibles, and then you just can plant like things you're gonna need in the future. And then you do a bunch of quests. I'm taking a nap because we're tired. I'm also tired. I'm always tired. I always need a nap. Wait, now it's nighttime. I messed up. Oh wait, we have new items. Oh, it's just decor. But I don't have any new items. Oh, maybe I have to be inside of the building for the new items. Round 2 of nap? I mean, like, that could be a thing. Or we could go actually collect stuff, because we didn't do anything. Yes. I don't express that I'm tired very easily. That's not me. Like, oh, I'm tired. And then people just look at me like, you're tired. You exude energy to the point where you get tired. You just always gotta like keep going. It's because I crash. Sometimes if I use too much of my energy, I'll just go just pew. Does that mean I'm not tired? Wait. You know what? We don't get into the logistics of it. Everyone's a different kind of tired. Ninja sleep as in like fall asleep. Sometimes if I have insomnia to some degree, so like I need to take melatonin to fall asleep. But other days, if it is specifically 2 p.m., I will like knock out. I will knock out for a nap. I will lay down, I will fall asleep in like 2 minutes. And I will be out for like 4 hours. Oh, I don't know what to talk to them. Hold on. She doesn't love her job, so she needs a vacation. Oh, but I want another one, but they don't have a gleamy. And I can go pet them, you're right. Go to sleep soon so you won't be drowsy tomorrow. They're forcing me to bed, even though everyone else is up having... They're gonna have a secret dance party without me. Alright, now you run back, because... Oh, you're so cute. Oh, did I need 20 of them. Okay. Did I buy everything from here? They're already closed. Oh, it says bedtime out here for that one reason. Get in the house. I need energy. Listen, hydration is only for the people that are dehydrated, such as myself, except I've grown to a higher level of being where I don't need hydration. All I need is it to rain and be humid so that I get the water through my pores because they open. Yep. That's how hydration works. Found some pretty good things today. The dumb burp! No, I don't have his item, but I have it for the Fleeble! The Fleeble's not a gleamy, but he's a different color, so he's important! I'm on my way! That's how anatomy works. Just absorbing water like a plant? I mean, like, you gotta absorb a certain amount of water so that you don't, like, dehydrate, so... Yes, yes, there's a gleamy outside somewhere. I don't know how to... Oh! The carrots? Up. And up. And up. And up. Oh, cool. And up. And then out and out and out and out and out and out and out. Out, 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 out. And then prove to me how anatomy works, huh? How does anatomy work, actually? Wait, no, what do I need to dance with them? Oh, I need 2 Muzz, but I don't have 2 Muzz. No, but there's... Look, we can dance with them. Anatomy doesn't work, anatomy defines. Sounds fake. Look, we're gonna have one really big dance battle, a really big dance battle, a really big dance battle. Yes! Hype him up, hype him up. It's not gang warfare, they're just being adorable. Look at him break it down. That one's stunned, so it can't do anything, and that's where we're getting the seed from. Come on, hit him hard. Yeah, look at that little dance move, huh? Come on, team. Yeah, shake it. You shake that. Wait, I can gain a beat. Let's see what we get. If I gained the other one, I would have been able to steal their points. Michael Jackson's Beat It Ooblets edition? Honestly, yeah. Oh no, I didn't get anything good. I should have used the points to get that one instead. That's okay. Earn 1 point. We gotta steal their points. We're stunned again. Another one. This is a cute game. I play mostly wholesome games. If I ever do play anything that's horror, I will say, because I get scared very easily. Look at Marginal Mamba pulling in for us. Hi, Ramir. Yeah, break it down. Break it down. Come on, do it again. Do it again. Oh, that one isn't as like hard going as the other one. They did a front flip. You saw that? They just did a front flip. Yeah, I don't even play horror games on a rough stream. Anxiety to me. No, I get it. I hate horror games. Well, I don't hate them. I'm very bad at playing them, so I always say like, this is a horror game because I can't handle horror games myself. My little heart goes. This is why we have this. Adorable. Totally in my charts. Oh no, 2 of them are stunned. Stun them back. Yeah, have hands. Hit them hard. Hit them hard. We're so close. No. We only have 3 of them going. Come on. Hit them. Hi, thank you for following Brenda Blue. Welcome to the dance battle. Look at it go. I call myself the off-brand energizer bunny because I have high energy. Look at him go. Yeah, give me that seed. Come on, poop it out. Poop it out. Yeah, make a little fun noise. See, there it is. Oh yeah, we're gonna get that gleamy. It's like Pokemon meant Slime Rancher. I'm still jamming it after that first one. Alright, let's go plan them. You. Oh, we already have an open plot. Let me tap. Where are you, sir? There you are, unusual. Oh, it's not a gleamy, but it's an unusual, which is still good because I want to collect all of them. Put this down here, and then we grab one, and we grab this little guy, and then we go. See? Exact noise. Alright, now that they're... Oh, let's grab this one first. Can't get ahead of ourselves because we planted a few of them. Look. Look. Okay, so we have to go buy more seeds because I need a lot more stuff, like a lot more stuff, but I also want to make sprinklers, and I think to make sprinklers I still need more things, unless I need just planks. I don't remember what I need. Let's go check to see what I need, because I don't remember what I need either. Ah, I hit my head. Go in, go in, go in, go in, go in, go in. Jamming out. Twinkle's always been an overachiever, too. Wait! What if we sell our stuff just to get a cutesy lamp? Like, do we need it? No. Can we afford it? No. But it's cute, and there's also this cute, lovely oh my gosh. Alright, so we're gonna go sell stuff and buy cute things and be responsible with our money! Oh, let's open this first. Yes, I want this sprinkler. Oh, I have enough. Okay. Yeah! Water my crops for me! I also really want to make this, but I'm gonna have to get a lot of stuff. Financial responsibility? We're talking about financial responsibility when literally the purchasing, like, the money in this game is gummies. They're gummies! That's how we purchase things! Like, look, that's 100 gummies. I'm only have 10 right now. Financial responsibility. It's because I'm trying to, like, get stuff, but, like, it's not growing fast enough. It's not growing fast enough for my spending needs. We're trying to do this one right now. But I don't have all the items. I'm missing quite a few. I only have... I have 3 when I need 20. Oof, that's gonna take me a while. But now I have sprinklers, so we're gonna do better off. Even though it's raining today. Oh, well. I also want to get this, but we're gonna have to wait. Well... I don't want to sell any of my stuff yet. Oh, no, I do actually. You're right, you're right. Let's sell this, sell, and then this one. Wait, what are these? I should probably see what they are first. If I just sell them, then I don't know what I'm selling, and I might be sad later. Wait, I can't buy anything. I do need more. Nope, 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 nope. I need you. Alright. Because we need more of them. Alright, now since we've used all of our money, we're gonna go plant it and start making our little farm thing, so. Oh, look at the sprinkler. Okay, I wanna... Wait, why can I not place that? Oh, is that why I can use this again? Oh, that's why I can detail it and stuff. I wasn't even aware. Okay, look, now we have a working sprinkler! It'll water our plants for us! Okay, I can place one more. I'm probably gonna place it here. Probably not the best spot. If any of these were done, then I'd put them here, but they're not done, so we're just gonna have to hope for the best. Okay, and then let's till the area surrounding it so we can plant our new crops. Okay. Oh, there we go. And then grab the sweetie beatie seeds, we put them in, and then I don't think I have enough, unfortunately, to battle another one, but I know there's more things to do because there's always collectibles around. Look at the squad. I really want a hat, but I don't know how to get a hat yet, so... Oh, I should clear some of the stuff. Listen, we're always making great stocks when it comes into this game. Time seems to go a little bit differently, because it actually tells you when crops are going to be done and such, so to me that's great. Going down. Breaking the rock. Wait, is that... Oh, that gave me an obsidian. Obsidian's pretty hard to come by, though I've been pretty lucky and I got 3 of it, so I wonder if they changed how difficult it is to get. Pull the weed. Okay. And then we're gonna go back. Oh, there's something in my eye. Hold on. Sorry. Okay, we're gonna run back. We're gonna go see if we can make more sprinklers, because I think I can make 2 more, because I have the rain droplets. Oh, and while it's raining, it's really important to get droplets, because it's one of the only times you can get it to make the sprinklers. So I still have 2 rain droplets, so now all I need is clothets, so I'm gonna go look for them in town. If I can get 4 of them today, then I'll be able to make all the sprinklers, and I don't have to worry about it less. Oh, let's talk to you. Oh, this is also the mayor of the town, Mayor Tinsel. She's very young, which is probably why we do things in gummies and such, but I like it that way a lot better. She's pretty responsible. She's done a pretty good job. Okay. Oops. Let's see, there's only a cloth right here. Oh, we got a mushroom today. A button boy. Buttoning me up. Okay. Oh, and then you. Oh, I can give you one of them. Nice, we fixed our printy press. Yes. I'm writing stonks today. Oh, that's right, it was with friendship stickers. Friendship stickers are pretty important. Nice. I got a new badge and it's incoming. We're about to watch the little mares, like, Ooblets just run to us to give us mail. Hello, officer. See, now we can make progress with the next stickers, and now talking to them every day is really, really important. Why does your character look sad when she flosses? My character flosses? Yes. She doesn't floss, does she? Was I not paying attention? I don't know. I don't think we have any new ones. Hey, it's Todd Gray. Mr. Todd, what's your color? I don't have anything new over her right now, but I will later. Oh, there is this color. He probably just loses it there. That's so weird, isn't it? Oh, but this one's really important, because if we can get a Grammy one of these, it'll be great. He's not doing anything today. Oh, that's great. I have to talk to all of them now. We got progress towards my next sticker. And then you. Oh, I don't think I had actually introduced myself to him. That's so interesting. Look at the clump with the little hat. I want a hat. Ah, personal account. You also have 2 accounts? Me too. But that's just so that I can secretly give people stuff and they won't know it's from me. Supporting people. One for streaming, one for modding, and chatting with friends. See, now that's cute. And this one has my emotes. Oh, he's so cute. Oh, I just want to pet his little head, and so we're just gonna have to. Come here, Hammond. Come on, Hammond. Get down closer, Hammond, please. I'm begging you. I can't reach Hammond today. Hammond's too far. His little heart. Oh, that's absolutely adorable. Making me want to get those emotes. I love cute stuff so much. That's why we have him. That's why he's one of our things. You don't have to apologize for that. Listen, all I made was a meme emote because I couldn't think of anything else. I did think about switching them up a little bit, and making those Discord emotes, and then having making basically cuter emotes for here. But we'll see, cause I get lazy a lot. I wanted to have a dance battle today, but I don't have the items for it. Oh, look at the little... Is that a ferret? That's a ferret right there. See, I know my animals. I passed 2nd grade. Yes, I passed 2nd grade. Not me doubting myself for a second there. Oh my gosh. Look at that little goldfish. What'd he do? The snack that smiles back. Goldfish. Have one Fleeble in the wildlands. Alright. We're gonna have to give up the Fleeble. I'm sorry. Alright, Fleeble, it's your time. We're rehoming you. Goodbye, Fleeble. He's going back to the wilds. Oh, look at him go. I think I'm gonna get him back eventually, though. I think he's just having fun out there. I thought I was gonna lose him forever. I was prepared, but I had tears in my eyes. Jimmy always has some of the cutest emotes. There's one person's emotes, I cannot remember them, but I want their emotes because they're adorable. Look at me, I'm free! Me like, it's their time to go. It's their time to go. I don't want it to be their time to go, you know? I don't want it to be their time to go. They had such great dance moves. Now, they're free. I forgot we can buy outfits. Outfit time. I don't have a single dollar. Yes, I always, oops, sorry, I'm a little far. I always recommend Ooblets to anyone, because it's like legitimately a relaxing game. There's no like, I would just, the easiest way I can say, there's no tryharding, there's no like, oh, you have to do this or this. It's just, you just play it and you do whatever you want every day. It's not like Stardew Valley where I had to like, chase down villagers every single day and give them something and try to make it out of the mines. Oh, you also have those games? I play those games too. I should be like, how do you say shopping time when I have literally like 0 gummies, meaning I can't afford a single thing. But this dress! Oh, I want it so bad. It's so cute. Oh, we can go plant stuff. Oh, I should be checking my wishes. Oh no, I actually don't have mine set to private. I have my things pretty open. But the only thing about those games is I play them on someone else's account because they let me borrow them. Although, that's only for mini motorways. That game I play on someone else's account because I was gonna buy it, but then I was like, I gotta try it out first, and then I just forgot to buy it. Me. Doop. 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 Oh, I just remembered it's because I stream Dead by Daylight, so I don't private it because I'm like, I don't got nothing to hide. And by hide, I mean like, some people are toxic and they have to private their accounts so they won't go chase after them, which makes me laugh. I can't do nothing about it. What is this? Is that a hot dog? Looks like a hot dog. 100 wishes. Okay. Oh, but we can get scene expansions even though we have no money. Let's see. I think I just need scene expansion for now because I want to get more stuff. Level 3. We're not level 3. Or near level 3. Well, kind of. Let's expand. Let's take a nap, and then we can go check the bulletin board to see what to do. Yeah, take a nap. I had a popsicle this whole time, and I completely forgot about it. Oh no, sweet Poppy. It's completely melted. Alright, gently open the bag. This is what I get for forgetting about stuff. That was right next to me. Avon's who I get mini motorways from. Oh, so hold on, I'm eating a popsicle because it almost completely melted. Oh wait, I'm passing. Hi, Ina. Oh, it spilled it. I made a mess. No. I'm going through technical difficulties, also known as I let a popsicle melt and I just tried to eat it. It did not go well. Okay, I'm back. It's probably everything's sticky. I will deal with that later. Oh, everything's sticky. Oh no. Well, you know what? That popsicle was not all fully wasted, so I'd say okay. Let's go look at the board. Nothing. Yeah. Well, I said I was eating a popsicle, but I had left it since I started streaming. I took it out of the freezer when I started streaming. I never ate it. It's been sitting there until right now. Then I tried to eat it. Don't say that. And then I kind of spilled it on my arm, and then I tried to lick it up, and then it didn't work out, and then it got on my armchair, and then I got on my pants, and now I need a wipey. I need a wet wipe. Oh, a wet wipe, thank you. This is literally, okay, I haven't had too many scuff streams in a while, so like something always has to happen. I'm currently, I got handed a wet wipe. I'm fine. It wasn't like a fourth of it came out. It was just like, if anything, like, if sugar water gets on me, I freak out. Cause I'm like, I can't just let this evaporate. What do I do here? All right, we're good. I tried telling my manager that I'm like a toddler and I forget things, and if it can melt, he's done for. I don't get popsicles very often. Anyway, back to what we were. There's always chaos in my stream. Always chaos. And if it's not done by me, it's... No, it's always done by me, yeah. Thanks. Thanks, gamer. I'm also stuck on Hollow Knight, which is why I refuse to play. I streamed Hollow Knight twice, and then I'm stuck on one part. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, so I stopped playing it. To wash down the popsicle, that's why you made me hydrate. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I had one friend who was helping me. Well, like, not like telling me exactly what to do, but like there's certain hard stuck parts that I got to, and right now I'm at one of them, and I couldn't figure it out. But he went to go take a nap. My only like, help me please, went to go take a nap, and I was like, no. What am... Oh, I remember. It's because I have to go get my nail. I have to go to the blacksmith for my nail. And I basically died along the way, so then I stopped playing, but I'll get back to it. You have to go to bed? You better not be skipping any sleep. I hope you have a good rest, though. Thank you for coming. And if I do a Hollow Knight stream, I will try to do a little bit earlier so that you can watch. Oh, I'll keep that in mind then. I did good today. Oh, I didn't know. And don't worry, next time I'll just start at 6 in the morning. 6 in the morning my time would be 12 your time. Oh, letter. Close to the Netherlands. Wait, that's actually really cool. I'm jealous. It's like, when can I go visit? I've only been there a few times, not to the Netherlands specifically, but I think it's nice and I want to go back. I mean, like, vacations are nice. Okay. My sister went to UK for a master's degree and was same time div. Ooh. Actually, it's just not a green, it's a common. UK is 1 hour behind us. Oh, maybe I'm just dumb. Look at the little hearts! Time zones are dumb. I will say that. They're dumb. Oh. You had to go process those. My local time is EST time, which is, right now it is 6:48 p.m. It's pretty early, I guess, in the day. Barely hitting night. Don't even get me started on daylight savings time. Like, you're right, you shouldn't get him started so he can go to bed. They should be able to go to bed and sleep. Keeping it up. It's almost as bad as when... Oh, Avon, you wanna talk about pennies? Wish. Every single time here in my stream, you're like, yes, my non-specific, my non-gender specific. Which just makes me laugh, because normally I just call people they, them. Out of unknown. Energy. Daylight savings causes more heart attacks. It makes people less productive. It's called, there was this one part in the year where I got really happy because I got to sleep in an hour later, and then there's the other part of the year where I got really upset because I did not get the same sleep. Oh no, I did not mean to press eating. I didn't even know that I had options. Alright, little one. Let's go check you out. Scan him in. Is that Professor Oak? No. No need to bend your streaming schedule. Ah, you don't have to worry about it. It's not like I'm like breaking my bank. I don't mind streaming a little earlier. It's just sometimes when people like me to stream a little later, a little earlier. But I've been starting to get a lot of like, you stream at like 12 p.m. and I'm like, here come the E. Hi, Otaku. No, don't you dare say it's that Professor Oak. That white old crusty man. This is Magnolia. Look at her. Doing great research over here. Gimme! Not yet. Print them out. Ooh, print. Yes. Don't name after a plant. Magnolia is a plant? What plant is that? Let's see. I don't think we ever planted. Okay, yeah, just tell me which ones I have done and which ones I haven't done, and I really want to do Todd. Yeah, print them out. Yes, Fair is such a good game. And no, they're statues. I print out statues. I want to play Spirit Fair, but it makes me cry. I don't want to shed tears anymore. I can't shed any more tears. Blank, blank, blank. Oh, in here. Oh, right here. Nope, not there. Oh, right here. Tut, go in. Spot. It's a little bit sad, but yeah, worth it. A little bit sad. Add him in. Apart from that, apart from one character that's just the worst. I don't know which one. Oh, and then they changed the ending. They ended up completely patching the ending and changing it, and like, I don't know if I want to play it because I don't know what the other ending was, and now I'm getting a new one, and I'm like, why? What's in here? Got him the ending from before the DLC. I have to check that out. I'm waiting for all the DLC to be released and I'll go play through them. You know what? I might do the same thing. No mummies.
No?
No. A photo booth. Glad with your stream. Thank you for catching some of my stream. Have a good night. Hey, gummies! What do I look like, a rich man? Oh, look at all the juice. Go back for the other three. Nah, the other three don't get in. I ain't made out of money. Three of them just got hacked out. Oh no! Bum, bum. Bum, bum. Bum, bum. Oh. You really just showed your children. Sorry, but I love icons because, like, hey, I really like cute ones, and those to me were the cuter ones. Because, like, I only got with the tree because he's a gleaming. That's it. Philanthropy. That's dumb. Paying money for this. That's a scam! I really want the dance form, but not that bad.
Yeah, same way I break everything, but look at that squishy little baby fish. Going around town. And then back around town, part 2. And talk to you. I'm gonna try to do this as well. I have so many quests I have to try to do now. Yeah. Yonk. And then back down. Oh, I hit a wall. And I hit a wall. And then we go back in. Let's talk to— Oh, you have new stuff. No. No, wait. I meant to talk to you. Mead. Cloth plant seed. What? Did she— Oh, she changed these. Okay. I'll try these out, I guess. Oh, my pockets are full. Look. Oh, that's 10. Oh. Yoink. Oh, wow, my pockets are full. I think that's it. Flint. Pick up. Okay, make your progress. Let's see. Sure, Taffy. I still have no idea what you say to me every day. Ooh, cans. Collect the cans. Oh heck, I'm supposed to go put the chest down. I completely forgot about the chest. Oh, let me see what else I have to put into the Forest of Wonders. From what? I guess that's not them. Oh, we can retrieve them. we have to put in here for her, though? That's still so many items. We can go punch a few more trees, but we still don't have enough cloth yet, so now we have to wait. Watering, can do your watering powers. I forgot to water these dead for. Okay, now they're all watered. Then let's go pick up more to plant. I need a lot of these. I have to pick them up. No, whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, there you are. Although I do want to make another one, so I'm gonna go chat. Let's really have to talk to you. Lovely wallpaper still there, so I won't get it. Oh, I can actually get another one of those. What are the recipes for what? I really want to make this one. I'm gonna see if I can get the ingredients back from the other ones I'm doing, because I split them up into 2 places. I don't think I have enough cloths, but we can get the other stuff back. We can only get to keep the rock for now. Let's see. What did you take from us? I need this, this, and this. Do I have enough of them? I'm not sure, but if we don't, then I guess we'll just make another sprinkler. Although I should firstly make the sprinkler, because that's more important. Because then I have to do less work. Get in the barn! Now we don't have enough for this. That's okay. Barn time! Let's go stuff an ooblet in there. Ooblet, you're getting stuffed in there whether you like it or not. Oh, right. No! Oh. Look. Enter! Enter in the barn. We barely fit, but that's okay. I always like making clobbers. Look at the little hat! That means a hat! Oh, can. He clears weeds, rocks, and twigs, and that's all I can do right now until the second stage, and we can't upgrade it yet, but we'll try. Whoop, let me go put this in C. Should have furniture. There it is. Place. Place it. Huh? I don't know what to add. Okay, let's open this. I don't know what's going on about. Oh, we'll take these. Deposit, deposit. Oh, we have must now. I need to plant those really bad. these away, 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 these away. Okay. Okay, I have two of them. My brain, like, completely, like, left for a bit. Like, what am I doing? And then I remembered. That's okay. We have 12. I think if we get the ones in the house... Oh, actually, we might be able to take a nap. And then if we take a nap, we can get the learnings. And then... put them in. And then we get another sprinkler. Sprinkler time. It's time for the sprinkler of justice. Maybe I lied. No, we can still get it. We can still get it. I really hope this is enough, because if not, then we're not gonna get that sprinkler. There we go. Sprinkler time. Sprinkle me with water. I have to press the button. Boop. Okay, rotating it does nothing. It's perfectly placed, and I put it right there. There we go. Till and then I need a net. Oh, I forgot to plant these. That was in the water. Oh, look at the sprinkler. It's okay, it's okay. Back to taking naps. It might be heckin' late, but that doesn't stop us. They actually grew. Plant that one. Plant that one. That one. That one. Plant in, and then should be right there. In case we get one more. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. And then we get tucked in for the morning, even though we don't really have a bed. It's just kind of... It's not a bed, it doesn't even have a blanket on it. Or a pillow. No gleamies or anything today. But we do have two that we've never seen before, which is really important. Because we can go fight him. Show him our moves and level up our... Ooblets while we're at it. I don't have any more unique ones, I'm sorry. Welcome back. I'm busy opening it up. We now have Clumper working his hardest. He's not in here anymore, but you know what? He's just dancing. That's his thought. Just dancing. No, I have not been doing dance battles right now. I should be, but I'm not. You know what? Maybe if I leave again, I'll do a dance battle. Oh. I don't know what they like. Alright, time to go be a menace. Actually, how many did I be? 10. Don't think I have enough yet. I think I only had 2, so I have 12. There's only so many more to go. You never know if someone's following you. What do you mean it looks funny? You trying to say something? Like you funny? No, he does not. He looks like a handsome little gentleman. Ooh, throw this in there. I just had the cans, I swear. Make some bits, making some bits, making some bits, 2 more. And then we can go fishing a total of 6 times! I was doing math and counting, I swear. There we go, got it. And then, I should be doing this, but I can just save them up so it doesn't matter too much. We get the seed pole, and we click the bait, and we go... Speedy grow. Actually, that's really good. Okay. Harpy has been so busy, so I have nobody to bully in duels. That's sad. Mountalizer. Does that mean that there's seasons? I don't think there's seasons here, but I might be absolutely wrong again. I don't think Harpy's busy. Wait, what is he busy with? Like, so, like, special project? He just doing nothing? He, like... making a game? With Highlander? I also do not know what that means. Planks! Again! Give me more! I've been ripped off in the last one, even though all the other ones were really good. How could I not have perfect RNG? Oh, do we have any gummies? We have 2 gummies. I don't know why you want me to go fight stuff so bad. Because I have to get ingredients and I don't have all the ingredients. I just want Toad to have a hat. I don't remember how to get hats, that's the thing. Oh no, I don't mean to have a dance, but I'm meant to talk to you. There you go. Like, these... I would dance with them, but I don't have what they want. I already have one of the uncommon ones from there, the Fleebles, and these also don't have what they want. I might have what those want though. Hold on. Oh, I think I have Sweetie Bee. Oh, there's no Sweetie Bee. Those are carrots. Let me go get 2 carrots and we can go fight someone, okay? I need those anyway. A carrot! That's actually what they're called, carrots. Hold on, let me go in. You see? 2 carrots. I call them carrots. No, like they're legitimately called carrots. What? It's a carrot, not a carrot in real life. I'm just gonna ignore you. Oop, toast and a kid. That's what they meant, a hobdob. What doggy mo? Why not doggy mo? What the dog doing? Alright, who do we want to punch? Well, not punch. Who do we want to crank? You know what? I'll make Lumpstunk do the hard work. See? He's doing all the hard work. Oh, look at him go. I feel like the quibs while he's doing that. Hardworking man. Yeah, right. What the heck is that emote? Is that a hot dog? Thumbs upping? It's a weenie. It's not a weenie. You're a weenie. I'm officially dubbing you Weenie Hut Juniors. That's the role I'm gonna give you in Discord. Instead of Manager Center, it's gonna be Weenie Hut Juniors. Weenie Hut Manager? You wouldn't even be the manager, you'd be the, like, biggest patron there. You are the most depressing human being I've met in my life. You know that? Someone get me any manager. I mean, like, it might not be true, but give me a new manager. I'm demanding a refund on the current one in front of me isn't doing good enough. I need them to change the policy to my needs. Let him go. He's almost done with the second one. Come on, work harder. I wouldn't be a manager, I'd be a doormat. Yeah, you're a doormat. Doormat manager son. And then Harpy be the next manager. I wish shooting was that easy. Wait, actually, make this as well. Hold on. We're gonna go fight a few things. Let me get one of my mods, and then make a bowl of oodles. Okay. Now we should have enough to buy everything, so I just have to go collect all my ooblets and then go have a battle with them. Get in. Grib. Also, Chippy Harpy can't even manage his life. How are we gonna manage Mizu? Yeah, I'm gonna be real, because Harpy is my friend. He'd have no chance trying to manage me. He He knows it. I'm the one to be managing him. We all know this. Well, I'll be honest with you, Avon doesn't really manage me at all. I honestly make everything. He just reminds me that I should stream from time to time. Alright, let's dance. Hi, Uchi. How are you? It's going to well today. We're about to have a dance battle. I can only have 4 of them. Yeah, I'll choose you. Actually, no, because I want you to stay on the farm. I want you to keep spinning stuff. This song is fire, I'm not gonna lie. They're so flustered they couldn't earn a point without one. Still 14 points. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to hold off. Truck Simulator, is that you? A what? Who? Oh, I think, yeah, probably. I'm just gonna take their points so they don't have a chance even if they take our points. You keep distracting me from mining in Final Fantasy XIV. Hell yeah. Yeah! Stone him! Skip step him! That's right. Look at him, almost flipping him off the little flippers. Got a vibe because the music's good. Look at him. The crowd's going wild. Look at the little burbs. That little couple over there. Yeah, break down. So stunned. That poor lad. Your dance moves, they ain't even gonna do nothing. We have 6 hypes. Yeah, give me them 10 points. Look at them break it down. Yeah, they don't have a single point. Yeah! Break it down, little ones. I got a new move, Hot Tram Jam. Yeah, give me the seed. Poop it out. Come on. Yeah, right. You did great. You didn't do nothing. I would play Pokemon if I was good at Pokemon, but I ain't not good at Pokemon. Oh, I was supposed to put you as well. 3, 4, ready, the squad's ready to go. I just drink water! How you doing, BJ? Oh, like, I mean, like, good at Pokemon, it's like, I'd be doing guns. I haven't finished Pokemon, the newest one, that's the one I want to play. No, you know what? When the newest Pokemon comes out, I'll play it. I'll play that one. Yeah, you can just stream it on YouTube, you know that, right? We vibing. Look at him. We're about to hit him with all the cards. Yes, right. Break it down. Fluster him with the moves. You're breaking it down so hard that flustered and stunned. Hop in, man. Gain a hype. Let's go. But that's just the name of the card. Marginal Mamba. I'm getting hit hard here. But they don't stand a chance. Gain a high. Hit him hard. 5 points after setting it all up. Add a move. What we got? What we got? Let's go. I don't have enough points for that one. This is Ooblets, my greatest vibing live. Play this card. Let's go. Look at that breaking it down. Marginal Mamba because we're about to Mamba up all these fools. You didn't even stand a chance with my Quickie Claws. Look at you go. Gain a move. What we got? The other song you missed though was absolutely fire. Come on, give me your points. Oh, give me your points. Got it close to you like I got nothing else to do. breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down. Look at them go. Look at them go. Todd. Oh, look! It says his ego! His ego is growing up. Oh, the level points are next to its ego! Their ego gets bigger! Yeah, give me a seed. Poop it out, poop it out, poop it out, poop it out, poop it out. Alright. We got one more in battle, let's go. You, and you shall be the chosen ones for this match. Oh, this is a softer vibe. I like this upbeat though. I ain't fixing your odds. Jamming it out instead. Playing a little piano. At over 100k. And now I can't win it all. Imagine not being able to win at all in a situation given like this. Well, what are you gonna do about it, huh? I'm gonna fix the odds for you instead. What sign? What sign says to not gamble? Who put it up? Who did that? Hi, Seiko! How are you doing today? I'm doing great. Look at the vibe. Personal attack. I hope you stubbed your toe. I've stubbed my toe, and I don't care anymore. Bro, this thing's Frank Sinatra. You want me to put some Frank Sinatra on? You want me to have to take my Vod down later? Philustrum. Wait, Tad Polka. Hold on. I forgot to play Tad Polka first. Philustrum. Gain a hype and then hit him with a ticky tap tap. Come on. Break it down. And the turn. You don't even stand a chance. Get your 7 points. What are you gonna do, huh? What are you gonna do, huh? You got nothing. Want me to fluster you again? Fluster you again. Let's play a Gabba Trot. Let's go ahead and earn 9 points. Then we have little Lindy. That'll get us farther ahead. Little did you know we're gonna win anyway! Give me a seed. I'm coming for your seed. Breaking it down. Cookie Claw's ego leveled up. Just a taste. Still 5 points. Just a taste. Taste. Listen, they all have seeds and they're gonna poop it out. I'm gonna go plant it. It's already been pre-fertilized if they poop it out. I'm never taken out of context, so it's fine. I don't have much to worry about. Plan me to grow a new friend. Rub hands together. Don't you dare. Wait, you're the ones that if we have 2 months we can go fight. Alright, back it up. Run all the way back. Oh, do I have any gisamis? I only have 2. If anyone that ever starts getting my clips and taking out of context, I think I will start monitoring my language a lot more. Cause I say a lot of things. Seed. Plant the seed. I ran out of space for the seed. Make me bread? He hasn't even brought me bread. Imagine you getting some, I'd be jealous. Yeah, he's been off for like the last 2 days. It's insane. It's like, when are you going back to work? What about my cookies? I actually want some cereal, but I can't have that until I finish streaming, so I gotta wait. Because I don't want to eat cereal on stream, because then I'll get more distracted than I already was. You're so cute. Look at the little baby up there on the parasol. Alright, let's go ahead and dance. That's a squad! We're bringing in the whole squad for this! Yo! The whole squad's bringing in everything! Look at all the cards! Come on, gain 4 hype immediately off the bat. Gain 4 hype. Now we gain another hype up in there. Gain B. Dance. And then we can get 7 points right off the bat, even though it's the smallest starting point. We end that turn. Now we gotta wait. That's like a 30-minute drive. I'm literally gonna drive 8 hours, 10 hours or something to go see a concert in November, maybe, depending on what it's looking like. You can do 30 minutes. You'll be fine. Gain 8 points and a hype. Oh, look at all these good options. Put down the roots. Come on, tree stump. Put it down. Game got nothing to do. Fluster them. They don't get a hype. What's that? 3 of our cards are gonna be useless. We just gotta get the hard-hitting ones, and that's all that matters. An annoying extra card? Little did you know. Alright, you know what? Just for that fool, you're getting stunned. Bye-bye. I think we just sent one of our own members. That's not the point. Alright, let's go. Oh, let's go get 13 points. Look at that progress bar right there. Didn't take care of that much? Brain off. You know what? I'm just gonna kick it to him. And then we go for the points to finish him off. It was me and Dad, so you would take turns. You take turns driving, and I know exactly why. It's because you're lame. Nah, I know the real reason. And I would never do that. Because moving that far, I won't do it. A Clomper is growing an emo. Look at him, he got jitter shrug. He goes, whatevs. And then they get stunned because they're like, oh, he's so cool. Bye bye, have a Hi, good evening. Lump stump. Yeah, give me a seed, you dumb bird. Stumburb. Alright, we got the last seed. Pain. I think you're doing great. Welcome to the Poor Kid Club. He was already 3 steps ahead of you. It's slow. I can't go in there. Hello, ma'am. I want business in there. We don't have running energy. Oh, yes we do. We have a new brother. Oh my god. I can't believe you two. I swear to god. Stop indoctrinating people into the cults. Alright, Clomper, you're going back on the farm. It's not a cult, it's a religion. Sir? Why would I fix the odds? Hello? I may be poor, but I am happy, and that's all that matters. Look at him. Babies. Howie. I hurt my jaw. I had stuff in here this whole time? What? That's so weird. Because I'm poor. I only have 2 gummies to live up to my name. Plant. 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 So you know what? I'm gonna go make money right now. Oh, after watering. I forgot to put the thing on the watering can. I forgot to get water in the watering can. That's what it is. I'm supposed to put water in it. I forgot. Oops. I got a new PC soon and a wife. That all that matters. You have a wife now? What? Hello? How many do I have? No, there's no way I have 8. Hold on. Don't think I have enough for anything. What? I'm also wondering that, like, we're all just sitting here like, hello? You got married? Going into the wrong place because I'm poor, but let's go talk to you anyway to get your sticker. Not yet, but you're planning on it. How long have we been together? Okay. Don't have. I think I have a planks though. I have a planks. Comps. I'm trying to finish my IT degree. I'm like, imagine trying to finish something, but I'm sitting here like, wait, I'm also trying to finish something. Oh, I should look at my wishes. My wishy well. Oh, that's for... I guess there is kind of a winter. That's so odd. Faster reconstrued. I don't care about that. But this... Now that's what I mean. Like, that'd be cool and I might need that, but this, I want that. Got a full run to Masters. That's right! I was so proud of you. Honestly, Avon, I know you could have done it if you'd, like, didn't get, like, hecking pressed, so... It's just sad, boys. Oh no. I'm gonna be hit by something. I saved enough money to upgrade from laptop and PC and have a loving girlfriend in sports even though I fuck up 24/7. That's adorable. Find you someone like that. That ain't me though. I'm sorry for you. Avon's absolutely hecked. If I did literally anything in classes, yes. What happened? Going around the whole thing just to pick this up. Just more bet. Blink. Hey, but they're trying to rob the house. I remember Alistar and like just the fact that he's going so far so quickly. Wow, so amazing. I'm still in general studies. My second year is in 2 weeks. Dang. I need to teach myself calculus again? Okay. Why are you teaching yourself calculus? Hmm? So I can flex on people? How is that a flex? I don't think that's a flex. I'm bad at math, so... I need the math. Ooh. Because that's the only tool we have. We have rock to break rock. Bigger, stronger rock breaks weak, lesser rock. Yeah, and your little protection degree. Rock, paper, scissors says rock ties, but not here. Or anywhere in real life, but sure. Plants. Plant. Oh, this one's open space right here. Plants. Alright, there we go. I don't think any of them are watered, and I don't have the energy to water them, so then we go to bed. Sleep until morning. Sleep until morning. We're already up to level 4. Wow, we did a lot today, huh? I feel like we should just do dance battles in general. Just to level up a little better. None of these are... cleanies. They're not special, but they're still cute, so... You're in a 15-person call? Why are you in a 15-person call? Hello? Take a massive dump on speaker to start down inside is the most disgusting thing I've heard. Try to help Highlander make something and people just keep joining. I mean, like, 15 people isn't too bad, but that comes from someone that's, like, played in Final Fantasy XIV and would every day get onto a group call where just anyone could join to talk about anything, especially if they saw their friends there, they would join. So it'd go from being, like, 4 people, like, kind of in the morning to, like, 15 usually. I'd only feel like it'd be annoying if it was... I don't know what to say there, because I wouldn't mind, I guess. But I can see how it'd be annoying if you're actually trying to help and they keep distracting them. I get it. I mean, I got no issue with it, so you do what you gotta do to let out. I still need you to set up a Discord server later. I'm coming for you later. Maybe not today, later. I'll figure it out with Ben first, and then I'll ask you. You know, the usual stuff. Okay. Just kick them out? Imagine that's like the solution, still a problem. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Okay, kick everyone except the girlfriend out. How about that? I need 6 Ooblets. I gotta go pick up the rest of my Ooblets. Nice. Did I always have 5? I thought I counted 6 every single time. Hello? Oh, that's because duh, Clumper's on the farm right now. Oh, Clumper! Is that why he wasn't there? Oh, he's back there. Oh, I love it. Voice call for the boys only, no girls allowed. You know what? Heck you. That's so lame. Although that never really happens to me, and I don't know why. But this is a really terrible Cyan Boys Club. I've tried getting Avon to do that with friends, and he won't do it. So like, it wasn't very productive. Hold on. I'm looking for something real quick. There we go. Hope these grew up. Make it a voice call called Homie Hub and designated to boys only? No. Obey the wishes. Your clothing label? No. This one. I really should have gotten even more Ooblets or something, but I just wanted them so bad. There's so many good things, but choosing just one is hard. Alright, how do we upgrade this? Alright, that's it, you. need 2 more. Alright, Avon, go break him out of jail. Oh wait, 2 Ooblets! Yes! Okay, we're gonna have to actually collect more Ooblets then. I'll just wait the remaining 9 minutes. Go ahead, I'm not gonna stop you. Well, not like stop you as in like, okay, go ahead. I got nothing to do. This one. Yes. Complete. I don't know the items. Copy the logs. I don't remember how to get Clomper, because Clomper's the one that matters, because I like putting Clompers up to do those tasks. Oh, finish that. Look at him running. He running. Let's go finish your orders. And yes, and then we got stuff. And oh, we actually finished this. Nice. Okay, let's go talk to you. I know right now the most important things are sweet beans, mix, pump down, better watering can, no. Sweet beaties. I know they take like, I know they take a while to grow, but oh well. Let's put a clump and then perfect. He doesn't even hold a watering can. Yeah, they have straw hats. Ba 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 ba. Okay, let me move this really quick. And then here. Go in. Oops. Then you. And I guess I'll put you. There you go. Childbirth. Childbirth. no childbirth yet. Almost childbirth. Hello? How can I help? Feel like I'm missing something here.
I got that away, so got this go.
Huh? What do you mean this game is just Mizu and me and Harpy following? I can't with you. That's quite a lot of stuff. Oops. Okay, I think I can take a single nap before I go get the rest of the cans. Run all the way back, run back, run back. Take a nap. Why does your character run like they have scoliosis? That's mean. They're just tired. Some little headbands. Oh, those are red little booties. Life really just did that to me, huh? Number. Not sure if the Ooblets do anything or not, but I guess I'm gonna have to find out later. Because I made them this great little house, but I am starting to question if they actually do anything, and I will have to look that up later because I don't want to be wasting my Ooblets time. A new badge. Because I keep touching stuff? More tokens. Token. Train Sim World 2? What? I've never heard of that game. Whoa. I don't know if that's meant to be sarcastic or not. Sure you do. I gotta start getting onto Epic Games because they have free stuff there all the time. Look at my line of Ooblets. I don't even have all of them on. Like innocent. I'm gonna have to look into that. Ganeman! Is it a good game? Like, can I get one more opinion on this? Do you think I should get it? Oh, I own it, not I played it. Okay. I'll just make Aaron play it for me. We're skinning. Wait, we can go buy an outfit. Let's go buy an outfit. I have a backlog? Yeah, right. I've seen you play the same game 3 times. I don't want to hear it, mister. I have a backlog. Ooh. That's why I have a backlog? Then don't. Easy peasy. Oh, the chest I want is still there. Hold on. Collect the hand sanitizer. Buy this and buy it. I don't have enough for the bag, but that's okay. Oh, maybe a new pair of shoes. Red sneakers, pale flats. Now, let's go for the sneakers. Some white Converse. Oh, there we go, clothing. Let's wear this instead. And these little shoes, that's so much cuter. Alright, now we styling. Next up, we style our hairstyle. Wait, I wonder if they actually do anything. Anything unwatered? It's water crops, but I don't trust them anymore. My own Ooblets are making me doubt them. Q. Put this one in, and then put that one. A-okay. Then we go just go sleep with our 17 million Ooblets. BJ, the most I would ever bring it up to is 45%. No, it's 40. It's 40-60. Like, it's legitimately 40-60. I wouldn't make it go 0. That'd be insane. Wait, really? I didn't know that. That's why. My son's making me stuff. Here, come on, cough up and I'll raise it to 50% at least. You're not that bad? Cough up. Casinos are like normally a lot lower so they can actually make profits. They're normally like probably 30, 70. My life is a scam. What am I even doing? I just want points. Here. Let me go to my settings. Let me log in. Where is it? 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 That's where that is. Oh, modules. There it is. Boom, 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 boom. Good luck winning points. That's all I have to say to you. I didn't move it, but yeah. I don't know what to say. Look. You have a 45% chance. It's 45 55. So you only have a 55% chance of losing. Oops. Okay. I can go make that. Hold on. I'll be back for you, babies. I must wait. Thinking. Oh, I kind of want this one though, even though I know I should get more Ooblets. They're not the cutest, so I guess I'll make them wait. But I probably should get this one. Then we enter the house. Okay, just just need those two, which that isn't too bad. Oops, actually, I think I got rid of rocks. Is that enough for them? I don't know if that's enough for them. I need 14 more logs. Well, not 14, but that's so much. That only gives me one. I'm picking up the logs. Squeezing my way through. Harvest crop plant seeds. I'm trying my best, but they won't even water the crops. Why won't they water the crops? Do I have to put them on, or... I think I put it wrong. Oh no, I think it has to be on the thing. How about I'm gonna have to save. Louder. 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 Add you. Smick. They're so cute, I love them. Okay, now that he's smacking his face against it. I don't know if, I think it's the gleaming. I don't think so. Oh, I should put stuff in here. Hydrate? Why are you all terrorized? Oh, you're doing laundry? Why are you doing laundry? It's so weird. Okay. You know what? He might want clean clothes, but does he really need them? That was an animation, alright. What do you mean we put in my obsidian? Oh, I want to go get that note as well. I gotta run back. If they're done making what I told them to make, then I need to grab all of them. I'm about to bring the entire squad with me for this. Sir, you only got one done. Yes, he is. Remember how many I need. I know I have one more in the house. I have to go check to see if it's 2 or 1. Do I have any more? Oh no. I don't have any more. I have to go find them. They're special, I can tell. No. You need fructose, but no. They're not over here as well.
Hello.
Come on. No, those are normal birds. Hello? Do they not exist? Am I wrong? There they are. I just need 2, so he was gonna finish making that, so I'm gonna go fight them. Alright, now you're just unlucky at this point, because that's a 45-55. He lost a 45-55. I don't know what to say anymore. I literally made it a lot easier. I nearly made it a 50-50 and you still couldn't do it. Dance. Alright, now it's on again. And this, and this, and I'm gonna do both of those. I've gone to dance school if they had tunes like this. Okay, are we done the clicky claws? Okay, we just use our entire hands. You know what? Let's just steal her points. That's alright, Sophie. There you go. Yeah. Both of these are just unusual, but if I want to collect all of them, I'm gonna have to go make noodles so that I can fight the other ones. Because those are odd colored ones, I think, and if they're not, then I'm gonna be sad. Hello? Where are you? Yes, they are the odd colored ones. Okay. Very good. Oh, thank God. I'm like, I don't have any. I've literally been trying to get everything I could. Okay. Let's go do this one more dance battle and get the queen. Well, it's not, I think it's unusual. Queenies always leave trails behind them. I also learned I can have only a certain limited amount of ooblets, and that is 7 of them. I can't tell if it's 8 because that one just came flying out of nowhere. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Let's put it in the dumb burb. Wait, if that's so many clicky claws? Hold on. Damn, this song slaps though. They're clicking in unison, yes they are. Oh, this is so many cards. Breaking it down. Look at him go. Stun target. Heck yeah, because that caused 0 moves. He's so swaggy. They're literally just intimidated by him. He has no energy to cost there. Gain 1 hype because they're hopping mad. Look at him go. Side to side. I don't really have anything here. So let's go ahead and just stun him while we're at it. We can't do anything, they can't do anything either. Fluster them once again because they might have too much hype on their hands. And stun another person, let's go. And turn. Oh, they're stealing our points! And getting hype. This is what you get for getting a crowd of flicky clouds. Big clouds always cut into it. We're almost tied. We gotta play Tadpoker. Tadpoker's gonna be saving us when we play our cards. Go ahead and earn 13 points. But then we're gonna be 1 short for stealing their own points. We're gonna have to fight a little bit there. But while we're at it, let's go ahead and stun a target with Jolt and Bolt. We can stun them again. Skip step, here we go. They're stealing our points. Smooch and Mamba's coming in effect. This is becoming a really, really close one, and they still haven't played all their cards. Alright, we're really gonna put him into it. By stealing the points big. Yeah! Look at us go. Give me a seed, you unusual one. Yep, Todd. Break it down. Break it down. Break it down. Yeah. 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 Look at him go. Dancing side to side. Got nothing to say to me and my crew. We're just mad because we're flexing on our crew. Yeah, give me your seed. Poop it out. Unusual seed, here we come. Alright, now we're gonna go quickly plant this. Oh. Boop, 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 boop. I gotta figure out how to put the thing though. So if I'm right, then I have to remove them. Oops. Exit out of here, grab onto this thing. Oops. Do this. Do this. Oops. Q. Here. There we go. We'll enter the house. And we put our little farmers in. Look, now they're working! All of them are using their little watering cans. Alright, now I got my Ooblets working, which is always a good thing. It's more, even, I would say this isn't because you can't get sprinklers, because the more you upgrade it, the better things get, like a lot better. Because then it'll defrost your crops, so you don't have to have a sprinkler and then a defroster. 2-1. They're literally become 5-1. Look at them go. There you go. I just want to watch him finish watering his crop. There he goes. Okay. Taking a nap. I pray to God I remember where I ended off on, because I'm probably not gonna remember. I won't be playing for a while, though, so it'll be okay. Alright. That's where I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream for the day. Imagine me ending stream. Well, that's not really something you have to imagine. That's just something I always do outright, isn't it? But we just don't bring it up. Because why would I bring it up? Oh. You really just pull out the water? You pulled out the water on me. What did I do? Oh, it's just making me drink water and stuff. What is this? It's Osmosis Drones? What are you talking about? What are you literally talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. I am stuck. Hold on. Okay. Oh. Alright, I'll take a big sip of water. How about that? That was just for you. Alright. Bye-bye. Have a good night. There you go.